Welcome to the deep dive, where we take your chosen material and really extract the core knowledge you need. Today, we're getting into a big one in personal finance. I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. This is a book you specifically asked us to explore.
Yeah, and our mission here, it's more than just a quick summary. We really want to pull out every single actionable strategy, every key insight, all the practical advice Sethi gives. Think of it like your deep dive into his whole philosophy and how you can actually use it.
Right.
We know you're looking for that thorough understanding, so, we're aiming to leave no stone unturned. By the end, you should know not just what he recommends, but the really crucial why behind it all. That gives you the confidence to manage your money well.
Okay, sounds good. So where do we kick things off?
Let's start where he does, right near the beginning. Conscious spending.
Conscious spending. Now, this isn't your standard, super strict budgeting, is it?
No, definitely not. It's a pretty fundamental shift, actually, in how you think about money management. Instead of that, often negative, restrictive feeling you get with traditional budgeting, tracking every penny, feeling deprived.
Yeah, nobody likes that feeling.
Right. This is more about deliberately deciding where your money goes. It's proactive, aligning spending with what actually matters to you.
And Sethi draws this really useful line between cheap people and conscious spenders. It's not just about, saving money on everything possible.
Exactly. The cheap person, as he puts it, focuses mostly on short-term savings everywhere, obsessing over tiny discounts, generic stuff, even on things they actually value. And that can mean missing out, experiences, better quality things they'd enjoy more. The insight is that this kind of broad restriction can actually make you less happy overall.
Okay.
Conscious spenders, though, they're strategic. They figure out what truly gives them value, what they love, and they're okay spending, extravagantly in those specific areas.
Extravagantly, really?
Yeah, while at the same time, they cut back ruthlessly on the stuff they just don't care about. It's all about those intentional trade-offs.
He gives that really memorable example. The friend spending, was it $21,000 a year just on going out?
That's the one.
Which sounds completely crazy at first.
Right. But it's guilt-free for them because they've consciously made huge cuts elsewhere, drastically reducing their housing costs.
That really flips the usual advice on its head.
Totally. It shows how personal financial priorities can be. There's no single right way. The key is that intentionality, making deliberate choices. He also talks about using psychology, like automating savings. Taps into loss aversion, right? Once it's gone to savings, you don't really count it for spending.
Okay, so how do we actually do this conscious spending thing? This is where the 4 buckets come in, right?
Yes, the 4 buckets. It's a really clear framework for dividing up your take-home pay. First up is fixed costs. This is usually 50 to 60% of your take-home, essential recurring stuff.
Rent, mortgage, utilities.
Exactly. Car payments, loan payments, the things you have to pay. And the crucial thing here is to really know these costs. Understand them. Could they be lower?
Good question.
Because if this bucket is too full, it really squeezes everything else. It's the foundation.
Makes sense. What's bucket number 2?
Second is savings. Sethi suggests aiming for about 5 to 10% of take-home pay here. This is for your shorter, maybe medium-term goals. Vacations, save for a down payment, building that emergency fund.
Okay.
The key insight, define those goals. Knowing what you're saving for makes it way easier to actually do it.
Then we get to the one that often trips people up, investments.
Yeah, the third bucket, investments. The target here is 10% of take-home. This is all about your long-term future, building wealth over time, usually through things like a 401k, a Roth IRA, maybe other investments. And a huge point Sethi makes again and again is starting early. The sooner you start, the more compounding works its magic. We'll definitely circle back to that.
Okay, good. And the last bucket, the one everyone probably likes the sound of.
All right, the fourth bucket, guilt-free spending money. And this one's got a bit more flex, maybe 20 to 35% of take-home. This is the money you deliberately set aside for the fun stuff, the things you enjoy. Dining out, hobbies, clothes, entertainment.
The stuff you actually want to spend money on.
Exactly. And you can spend it without guilt because you've already handled your fixed costs, your savings goals, your investments. This is where that spend extravagantly on what you love, cut mercilessly on what you don't idea really plays out.
Takes the guilt away.
Totally. Allocating it consciously removes that mental friction.
So the 4 buckets give us the structure, But how do you make sure you don't blow the budget, especially in that guilt-free zone?
Well, he mentions a few techniques. One classic one is the envelope system.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Actual physical envelopes?
Yeah, basically, you put a set amount of cash in envelopes for certain categories, like, say, groceries or entertainment.
Hmm.
When the cash is gone, it's gone for that period.
Very.
It's very tangible. It's a straightforward way to control spending in specific areas where it's easy to, let things slide.
Okay, that's a really solid overview of conscious spending. Now, the book also spends a lot of time on overcoming financial anxiety and inertia. That feels like a big hurdle for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. For so many people, money is just a huge source of stress, worry, even fear. Sethi's goal is to fundamentally change that relationship, turn money from something that causes anxiety into a tool for, well, calm, control, possibility.
Wow.
The core idea is that by actually taking steps to manage your finances, you're tackling the root cause of the anxiety head on.
And his style is definitely different from some other financial gurus. He's not going to yell at you about buying lattes, right?
No, exactly. He deliberately avoids that kind of advice, the
Mm.
stuff that focuses on restricting small pleasures.
Mm.
He argues, pretty convincingly, I think, that obsessing over tiny expenses is like missing the big picture.
The forest for the trees.
Right. His method is about setting up good systems, making conscious choices about the big things, spending, saving.
Yeah.
It's just more sustainable and, frankly, psychologically healthier than denying yourself a coffee.
He even makes this interesting comparison between financial health and physical health. Can you expand on that a bit?
Yeah, it's a neat analogy. He talks about how gradual negative changes can sneak up on us. Like weight gain or getting out of shape happens slowly, small choice by small choice. And debt or bad financial habits can build up the same way, almost unnoticed.
Mm.
But the empowering part of the comparison is that just like you can take control of your physical health with effort, exercise, eating right, you can do the same with your financial health by using the strategies he lays out.
Taking control.
Exactly.
And he really calls out this trap of debating financial minutia. I feel like I know people who do this. They seem busy with money stuff, but aren't actually getting anywhere.
Yes. This is such a crucial point. It's easy to feel productive by endlessly researching tiny details. Should I switch banks for 0.1% more interest? Is this coupon worth the hassle?
Yeah, analysis paralysis.
Precisely. Hours spent reading articles, comparing things. And look, some research is fine, but Sethi says it often becomes a way to procrastinate, a way to avoid the bigger, maybe scarier steps, like actually opening that investment account and setting up transfers.
So action beats perfection.
Action, even imperfect action, is way better than endless debate. That's the core message.
Okay, that leads perfectly into one of the book's most powerful illustrations, the whole Smart Sally versus Dumb Dan thing.
Yeah.
That really shows the impact of starting early.
Oh, yeah. It's a classic example, but super effective for showing how compound interest works. So Smart Sally starts investing when she's 35. She puts away $200 every month, consistently, for 30 years until she's 65.
Okay, $200 a month for 30 years.
Right. Now, Dumb Dan,
Yeah.
he waits. He doesn't start until he's 45. He invests the same amount, $200 a month, but only for 20 years, until he's also 65.
Same monthly amount, just 10 fewer years.
Exactly. And let's just assume, say, an average 8% annual return.
Which is a reasonable historical average for the stock market long term.
Right. So even though Dan invested the same $200 a month, Sally ends up with way more money, about $181,000, almost $181,500 actually.
And Dan?
Dan ends up with around $118,500.
Wow, that's a huge difference. Over $60,000 more for Sally.
Yep. And here's the kicker. Dan actually invested less total money out of pockets,
Right.
right? He invested $48,000 total, 200 by 240 months.
Right, 20 years.
Sally invested $72,000 total, 200 by 360 months,
So she invested $24,000 more.
and ended up with over $60,000 extra in returns. It just hammers home the power of those early years, the compounding effect.
Time is really the key ingredient there.
Absolutely. Time in the market beats timing in the market almost every time.
But what about people listening who are, already past 35, feeling like they missed the boat?
Sethi addresses that directly. His message is really clear.
Yeah.
Yes, starting earlier is better, gives you a big advantage, but it is absolutely 100% never too late to start.
Okay, that's important.
The focus just needs to shift immediately to taking action now, whatever your age is. Start now. Even small amounts, increasing them over time, it still makes a massive difference down the road.
Okay. Now, Sethi can be pretty direct, maybe even blunt sometimes, especially when he talks about what he calls victim culture in personal finance. He doesn't really hold back there.
No, he doesn't. That's a fair way to put it. He has this strong refusal to accept excuses for not taking financial action.
Yeah.
He directly challenges that mindset of feeling powerless, like, I just can't save any money. He argues it often comes down to priorities and maybe some self-limiting beliefs
Right.
rather than objective reality.
Taking responsibility.
Radical personal responsibility, yeah. That's the core insight there.
He even mentions his famous save $1,000 in 30 days challenge.
Right, as proof. To show that with focus, a clear goal, using some psychological tricks on yourself, people can find ways to save a decent chunk of money quickly, even if they thought it was impossible.
And he contrasts the people who did it with, well, the people who just made excuses.
Yeah, he calls them the whiners,
Mhm.
basically. Those who kept saying why they couldn't do it instead of trying. It really highlights shifting from feeling helpless to actually solving the problem.
And he pushes back against blaming external factors for money problems.
He does. While he acknowledges that, sure, the economy and other things play a role, he strongly believes you need to focus on what you can control. Your own choices about spending, saving, investing.
Uh-huh.
And this ties right into having a long-term view, especially with investing. Don't panic sell when the market dips. History shows the market trends up over time. Consistency pays off.
So the main message for overcoming that anxiety and inertia is really about empowerment. Recognizing you have more control than you think.
Exactly. It's realizing the obstacles and the solutions are mostly internal. It's about consciously taking control, building that automatic financial system, and just moving past the excuses and the paralysis.
Okay, that sets a strong foundation mindset approach. Let's get into some of the core actionable messages, the real how-to stuff from the book.
Yeah, it's packed with practical advice. A huge theme is just taking small, consistent steps. You don't need to fix everything overnight.
Like, don't get overwhelmed.
Right. Pick one or two things, implement them, build from there. He really pushes back against waiting for the perfect time or the perfect strategy, because that often leads to doing nothing. Getting started, even if it's not perfect, is way more important.
That sounds like his 85% solution idea.
Exactly. That's a cornerstone of his whole philosophy.
Yeah.
Get something to good enough, like 85% perfect, and then move on. Don't chase that impossible 100%, because that just leads to analysis paralysis.
Just get the ball rolling.
Get the ball rolling. Overcome the perfectionism. Progress, not perfection. You can always tweak things later. Get the basics in place. And he also normalizes making mistakes, especially early on with smaller amounts. They're learning opportunities, not failures. They help you refine things.
And woven through all this practical stuff is that core idea. Spend big on what you love. Cut brutally on what you don't.
Absolutely. That's the heart of conscious spending. It's not about deprivation. It's about being super intentional, strategic. The ultimate goal isn't just piling up money. It's designing your rich life. A life where money actually supports your values, your passions, your goals.
Right.
And that means getting specific about what your rich life looks like. Could be small things like taking taxis sometimes or ordering appetizers without guilt. Could be bigger things. It's personal.
So it's not some magic formula or get-rich-quick scheme.
No, he's very clear. Building wealth, achieving that rich life, it comes from consistent, small, disciplined steps. Doing the work to understand the basics, sticking to the plan. No secrets, just consistent application of good principles.
Okay, let's switch gears to a really practical area, optimizing credit cards. He has some strong views here.
He does. The goal is basically beat the credit card companies at their own game. He challenges that common fear around debt, arguing that credit cards, if you use them right, can actually be useful tools.
But that if you use them right part is key, right? Pay them off in full every month.
Absolutely critical. That's the fundamental truth. Pay the bill in full, on time, every month, and you get the benefits, rewards, cash back, building credit history without paying interest, that nasty APR.
But if you carry a balance,
Then the interest costs can explode, quickly wiping out any rewards.
Yeah.
He also hammers on understanding and avoiding fees, annual fees, late fees, over-limit fees. Got to know the terms.
And the book shares stories from readers who really benefited from his advice.
Yeah, several testimonials, people paying off big debts, using rewards to open retirement accounts, boosting their credit scores significantly, automating payments so they never miss one. Real examples of the strategies working.
Now, a basic but important point he makes is the difference between a credit score and a credit report.
Crucial distinction. Your credit score, that 3-digit number, is like a quick summary of how creditworthy you look. It's based on several things, but payment history is the biggest factor.
What else goes into it?
How much you owe overall, how long you've had credit, any new credit you've applied for recently, and the mix of credit types you have.
Okay, and the credit report.
A credit report is the detailed history behind the score. It's got your personal info, a full rundown of all your accounts, payment history, public records like bankruptcies, and who's been checking your credit. The report is the data. The score is the summary.
And Sethi really pushes focusing on big wins with credit, not sweating the small stuff.
Exactly. Being mindful of spending is good, sure, but he argues the value of a good credit score, getting much lower interest rates on huge loans like mortgages or car loans, is way more impactful than, say, skipping a coffee every day.
The savings add up.
Massively. Over the long term, a good score saves you thousands, potentially tens of thousands, on interest.
He includes a table showing mortgage interest savings based on FICO score, right? The difference is huge.
It's staggering. That table really drives it home. Even a small jump in your score can save you a fortune on a mortgage over 30 years. It shows why managing credit well is such a high-leverage activity. He also throws in personal stories, his own mistakes. Readers' mistakes, like missing small bills, starting credit too late. Real-world consequences.
What about navigating all those online credit card comparison sites? They can be confusing.
Yeah, he advises caution there. Be skeptical. Those sites are often driven by SEO, affiliate fees. The cards they push hardest might not be the best for you.
So do your own homework.
Definitely. Look beyond the sponsored links. Check forums, online communities. You might find better deals that aren't heavily advertised. He gives that example of the reader finding a great Alliant card on a forum, not a big comparison site.
Good reminder. And credit cards aren't the only type of credit, right?
Correct. He reminds us other things count towards your credit profile, too. Installment loans, car loans, student loans, personal lines of credit, home equity lines, even service credit, like how you pay your utility bills or phone bill. It all feeds into the report and score.
He shares some interesting hacks, too, like that hotel points thing for skipping housekeeping.
Yeah. Little strategies like that show there are ways to squeeze extra value if you really dig into the program details and get creative. Understand the nuances.
What about calling to negotiate a lower APR? Worth the effort.
He says absolutely make the call. If you pay on time, you have leverage. Ask for a lower APR. Now, if you pay in full every month, the APR doesn't technically hit you, but having a lower one is a good safety net just in case you do carry balance briefly. He provides a script. It's often a quick win if your credit's good.
And keeping old, unused cards open. Good idea.
Generally, yeah. It helps your credit score in a couple of ways. Lengthens your credit history, which is good, and it increases your total available credit, which lowers your utilization ratio, another plus.
So don't just close them.
His advice is usually to keep them open. Maybe put a tiny recurring charge on them, like a subscription, and set up autopay just to keep them active easily. Closing old accounts might not hurt much long-term if everything else is great, but keeping them open is usually safer, unless managing too many cards becomes a hassle.
The book also mentions secret perks.
Yeah, if you have good credit, it's worth calling your card companies maybe once a year. Ask if there are any perks not widely advertised, waived annual fees, credit limit increases, special promotions, travel benefits sometimes. Doesn't hurt to ask. He also stresses the consumer protection credit cards offer. Disputing charges if something goes wrong with a purchase is much easier than with debit or cash. Good for big buys.
And travel hacking gets a shout out, using points for cheap travel.
Definitely. Strategically using rewards for nearly free flights and hotels. He gives examples of people traveling to Hawaii, Italy, basically on points. It's a big motivator for some people.
He also gives that practical tip. Always track your calls with financial companies.
So important. Myth communications happen. Advice differs. Note the date, time, rep's name, what was said. It can save you huge headaches later if there's a dispute.
But after all these details, he circles back to focusing on the big wins, right? Don't get lost optimizing every single point.
Exactly. Using card benefits is good, but don't spend hours squeezing out tiny rewards. Your time is better spent on bigger things. Asset allocation in your investments, maybe a side hustle, increasing your main income, spending time with family. Those have a much bigger impact long term. He ends that section by pointing out how many people don't even know how much debt they have and how important it is to challenge negative money stories you tell yourself. Take control.
Which leads right into the next big topic, crushing debt, especially
Yeah.
student loans and credit cards.
Yes, he tackles debt head on. He acknowledges student loans are a massive burden for many. Repayment is tough, can take years. But he emphasizes that even making extra payments consistently can make a huge difference.
Like the Tony example. Paying an extra $100 a month on a $30K loan saved him years and thousands in interest.
Exactly. It shows small actions have big results over time with debt. He urges people to be proactive. Call your student loan lenders. Discuss all the options. Ask specific questions. What happens if I pay extra principal? What about consolidation or refinancing?
The message is clear. If you want a better financial future, getting rid of debt has to be a priority.
No doubt, especially high-interest debt like credit cards. Carrying a balance there is incredibly costly, can spiral fast. He uses that stark example. $5,000 debt at 14% APR, making only minimum payments. It takes over 25 years to pay off, and you pay over $6,000 in interest more than the original debt.
That's horrifying, just throwing money away on interest.
It really shows how damaging minimum payments are.
And then he contrasts that with Smart Sally, again, paying a fixed $100 a month on the same debt.
Right. And she's debt-free in just over 6 years, paying way, way less interest. Powerful comparison. The Dumb Dan versus Smart Sally table reinforces it. Pay more than the minimum, save time, save money. Dramatically.
So what are his 5 steps for getting rid of credit card debt?
Okay, the 5 steps. Pretty straightforward. 1. Stop using the cards while paying them down. Don't add to the pile.
Crucial first step.
2. Know exactly how much you owe. List every card, balance, interest rate. Face the numbers. 3. Attack the debt aggressively. Pay as much as you possibly can each month, way more than the minimum. He doesn't explicitly push snowball versus avalanche method, but the core is aggressive repayment.
Okay, attacked it.
4. Automate your payments. Set up automatic transfers for at least that fixed aggressive amount you've decided on. Never miss a payment. Stay consistent. And 5. Reduce spending and prioritize debt. Look at your conscious spending plan. Where can you temporarily cut back to free up more cash to throw at the debt?
But he says that spending reduction needs to be sustainable, right? Not some crazy crash diet for your wallet.
Exactly. Find cuts you can actually stick with for the months or years it takes. Extreme, unsustainable cuts just lead to burnout and giving up. He asked that really pointed question. Out of every $100 you earn, how much goes straight to debt payments? Doing that math can be a real wake-up call.
And he does offer some hope, saying many people can pay off debt faster than they think without totally wrecking their lifestyle.
Yeah, just by being conscious, prioritizing it. He acknowledges it's hard, feels daunting, but reminds you millions have done it. Yeah. He wraps up that section with encouragement like, congrats on taking the first steps, maybe getting fees waived, negotiating rates, setting up auto pay, and then smoothly pivots to optimizing bank accounts.
Right, bank accounts. Moving from just avoiding fees playing defense to choosing the right accounts playing offense.
Precisely. Shifting from trying not to get dinged by fees to proactively picking banks and accounts that are transparent, fair, and maybe even offer some benefits. And he suggests looking at a bank's track record. Their past behavior can tell you a lot about how much you can trust them.
He shares some pretty worrying stories from readers about bad experiences with big traditional banks.
Yeah, those testimonials are eye-opening. Bounce rent checks because the bank grabbed fees the customer didn't know about. Accusations of elder abuse in handling accounts. Constant unexpected overdraft fees. They paint a picture of potential frustration, lack of transparency, where maybe profits come before customers sometimes. He specifically calls out the Wells Fargo fake account scandal as a major example of predatory behavior.
Then he makes a point that might surprise some. Don't obsess over tiny differences in savings account interest rates.
Right, especially compared to investing. Earning some interest is better than none, obviously. But for most people building wealth, the focus should be on the macro, the big wins, like investing consistently, not the micro, chasing an extra 0.05% interest in a savings account.
Because inflation eats away at savings anyway.
Exactly. Cash in a low-yield savings account loses purchasing power over time. The potential returns from investing, even with risk, are historically much, much higher.
And another testimonial pops up here about someone automating their finances, which cut fees and boosted debt payments.
Yeah, reinforcing that automation theme. Set up systems to manage income, pay bills, save, invest. It cuts down on errors, fees, missed payments, frees up mental energy for bigger goals like debt reduction and investing. That testimonial really shows how automation enables those bigger wins.
So bearing that in mind, what basic bank account setups does he recommend?
Okay, a few options. Bare minimum, checking and savings at a local bank.
Right.
But scrutinize the fees. Look for no fee, no minimum options. Better approach, recommended for most. A two-part strategy. Get a no-fee checking account at a local bank or credit union for easy cash access, in-person stuff. Then pair that with a high-yield online savings account from a different institution,
Why online for savings?
because they typically offer way higher interest rates than brick-and-mortar banks, and usually free transfers back and forth with your checking account. Great place for your emergency fund, other savings goals.
Interestingly, he's a bit critical of credit unions here.
Yeah, it's a little surprising. He basically suggests that as a group, they haven't fully seized the opportunity to be the clear, trustworthy, always low-fee alternative to the big banks. He thinks they could do more to stand out.
Trust seems really important when choosing a bank. It's not just about features.
Paramount. A good bank, he says, should have a clear website listing services and fees transparently. Easy account setup, good customer service, ideally 24/7,
Yeah.
and just not nickel and dime you constantly.
And he lists tactics banks might use to push you away from good accounts.
Right. Like downplaying online banks, talking up benefits of low balance accounts that actually have hidden fees, discouraging questions about fees, claiming no fee accounts don't exist, they often do, be persistent, or bundling unwanted credit cards. Do assertive, he says. Be ready to walk if they don't meet your needs.
Convenience is still key, though, right?
Definitely for your main checking account. If it's a hassle, you won't use it well. But again, don't get fixated on chasing tiny interest rate bumps on savings. The gain is minimal, rates change all the time. He explicitly advises against standard big bank savings accounts because the rates are usually terrible.
So online savings accounts are the winner for stashing cash.
Pretty much. Higher interest, lower hassle. Perfect for money you're mostly putting in, not taking out constantly. He specifically likes Capital One 360. Savings for features like virtual sub-accounts for goals and easy automatic transfers.
He even gives a script for demanding a no-fee checking account.
Yeah, empowers you to ask directly, push back, even ask for a supervisor. He shares a story of someone using that approach to get an overdraft fee waived. Coactivity pays off. He also tells his own story about paying dumb ATM fees as an intern because he didn't open a local account. Little things add up.
The big takeaway from this chapter feels like stop focusing so much on savings account interest. Start focusing on investing for real growth.
Absolutely. Saving is not enough for significant long-term wealth. He quotes Einstein on compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world. He contrasts tiny savings rates with the stock market's historical average return of around 8% per year, long-term. Shows how even $1,000 grows way more through investing over decades compared to just sitting in savings.
Which leads us perfectly into the next big section, investing. Sethi calls it the first and best way to grow wealth. Pretty bold.
It is bold. And he starts by tackling weird beliefs about risk, like how people fear market drops but love sales on shoes. As a long-term investor, he argues, market drops are buying opportunities.
That's counterintuitive for many.
Totally. He also shares that tough data showing older people regretting not starting investing sooner, using that table of median 401k balances by age. It's a stark picture of missed potential.
Oh, wake-up call.
For younger folks, yeah. For older folks, a reminder it's never too late. He acknowledges investing feels overwhelming, complex, which leads many to just do nothing. The most common outcome, sadly.
He categorizes people as A's, B's, and C's regarding money management.
Yeah. A's are already managing money, looking to optimize. B's aren't doing much, but are open to learning, persuadable. C's are resistant, feel they can't, or just aren't interested. He lists common reasons people don't invest. No time, no money, don't know where to start, feels too complex, or just don't want to. He also warns about hidden costs of some financial advisors, especially commission-based ones, and the danger of just doing what your parents did or ignoring it completely.
This is where he introduces his ladder of personal finance, a roadmap.
Exactly. A sequence. Rung 1, optimize credit cards. Rung 2, set up bank accounts right. Rung 3, invest early and often. High priority. Roth IRA first if no 401k match.
Okay.
Rung 4, pay off debt, but maybe not low-interest student loans yet. Rung 5, automate investments, make it happen automatically. Rung 6, conscious spending plan, align spending with goals.
So investing comes before paying off all debt, potentially.
Yes, specifically low-interest debt, like many student loans. The potential return from investing is likely higher than the interest rate on those loans, so you can do both simultaneously. He really champions the Roth IRA, especially if you don't have a good 401k option. Big tax advantages. Tax-free growth, tax-free withdrawals in retirement. Plus, you can pull out your contributions tax-free and penalty-free in an emergency.
Need to check the income limits for contributing, though.
Definitely. Research current limits. But the key is contribute as much as possible, as early as possible each year. Delaying is costly because you lose compounding time.
And he urges people to open a Roth IRA, like, this week. Very urgent tone.
Yeah, he really stresses the cost of procrastination in investing. It's huge over decades. Money needed in less than 5 years. Keep it safe in high-yield savings. But don't use that as an excuse to avoid learning about and starting long-term investing. The message is, start investing today.
And he makes opening an account sound pretty easy.
He does. Breaks it down. Go to a discount brokerage, Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, sign up online or by phone, specify Roth IRA, link your checking account. Done. Many waive minimums if you set up automatic monthly contributions, even just $50 or $100 to start.
What about robo-advisors? They seem simple.
He acknowledges their appeal. Easy to use, low minimums, low initial fees, but he prefers the big brokerages like Vanguard long-term. Concerns with robos, fees might creep up later as they try to grow for their investors. Maybe less transparency if they change investment strategies. But ultimately, the most important thing is just starting investing in long-term, low-cost stuff, whether robo or brokerage. Just start.
He then shows examples of the tax advantages of different accounts.
Yeah, really helpful illustrations. Compares taxable account versus traditional 401k versus Roth 401k versus Roth IRA. Same contributions, same returns. Shows clearly how tax-advantaged accounts, especially the Roths, boost your final amount significantly due to tax-free growth and judicious withdrawals. Reinforces planning where you invest.
This all brings us back to actually creating that conscious spending plan in more detail, taking control month to month.
Exactly. Revisiting that cheap versus conscious spender idea, but with more detail. Cheap avoids spending, misses out, chases lowest price, feels entitled maybe. Conscious spends intentionally, extravagantly on loves, cuts ruthlessly elsewhere, understands value, thinks long-term.
That 21K going out example comes up again.
Yeah, perfect illustration of conscious trade-offs. Spending big where it matters by cutting big where it doesn't, like housing. He stresses the problem of not deciding priorities up front. Money just evaporates on random stuff, leaving you unfulfilled and short on goals. Identifying what you don't love spending on is key to freeing up cash, like his wife Lisa choosing a smaller apartment to save big on rent.
And then he walks through building your own plan with the 4 buckets again.
Yep. Fixed costs, 50-60%, investments, 10%, savings goals, 5-10%, guilt-free spending, 20-35%. Stresses calculating your actual percentages. For investments, reminds you taxes affect net returns later, like with the traditional 401k. For savings, define the goal and timeline. Shorter timeline means higher monthly savings needed, like for a wedding. Guilt-free is flexible based on your priorities.
Then optimizing the plan, making targeted changes.
Right. It's a living system, gives you feedback. Don't just slash everywhere. Focus on the 2-3 categories with the most wiggle room, the most potential impact. His examples were eating out, travel, clothes. Find your big levers.
And he lists tools to help manage all this.
Yeah, a good list. Mint for automatic tracking. Good starting point, has limits. YNAB for more detailed proactive budgeting. Forces you to assign dollars. Manual spreadsheet tracking, his initial method, especially for cash. Vanguard for investment allocation. Personal CF, very practical. Brian cut back significantly on eating out, entertainment, alcohol, saved $260 a month. Much bigger impact than trying to save pennies on toilet paper. Focus on the big categories. He also tells that story of the friend paying $1,300 a year in overdraft fees. Just avoiding those fees is a huge, big win right there.
And the key is sustainable change, right?
Yes, extreme cuts rarely last. Find realistic adjustments you can live with long term.
He even gets into salary negotiation in this section.
Yep. Says it's 90% mindset, believing your worth, and 10% tactics. Gives advice on handling objections, emphasizes preparation, knowing your value.
And this flows into what he calls the most profitable system, automation.
Exactly. Automate savings, investments, bill payments, takes willpower out of the equation, overcomes boredom, distraction, makes progress happen by default, uses that Komodo dragon analogy. The system keeps working, even if life throws curveballs. Shares Michelle's example using YNA for automation and tracking, focusing on her big wins, eating out, clothes, setting alerts, keeping a checking buffer, using cards for tracking but paying in full, checking in mid-month to stay on track.
Then he gives steps to create your own automatic money flow.
Yep, practical guide. Link your accounts. Set up automatic transfers right after payday to investments and savings goals. Adjust bill due dates to align with payday if possible. Provides a script for calling companies. Give sample schedules for monthly pay, bi-weekly pay. Just replicate the system. For freelancers, calculate average income. Automate based on that. Adjust manually as needed.
But even with automations, still need to review credit card bills.
Absolutely. Automation pays them, but you need to check for errors, fraud. Suggest weekly check initially, just 5 minutes. Later, maybe less often, just looking for big deviations. Trust the system, but keep an eye out. Includes a reminder for freelancers about self-employment tax. Get professional advice.
And crucially, once savings investing targets are met automatically, spend the rest. Enjoy it.
Yes, that's the point. Live your rich life. Have savings goals for vacations, fun, invest in yourself, travel, conferences, learning. It's not just about hoarding money.
Okay, this takes us into the really meaty section on investing wisdom, getting past the headlines and the experts.
Yeah, starts by noting the low financial literacy in the U.S., then tackles the myth that investing is just guessing hot stocks, acknowledges the overwhelm of options, stocks, bonds, funds, jargon.
And that common question, can I just hire someone? He has thoughts on that.
Strong opinions. Critical of commission-based advisors. Cites research showing pros often don't beat simple index funds long-term. Slams the financial media for sensationalizing short-term noise. Lack of accountability for pundits' often wrong predictions. His advice, ignore the pundits. They don't know the future.
The Putnam Investments example about missing the best market days really hits hard.
Shocking. Miss just the 10 best days over 15 years, and your returns plummet, even if the overall market did okay. Shows why trying to time the market is so risky. He notes media thrives on constant news, even if it's meaningless, and pundits rarely admit they were wrong.
He uses other research, too, like the Morningstar rating study.
Right, showing firms kept recommending funds of companies going bankrupt. Highlights limits of rely on expert ratings. Explains survivorship bias, bad funds disappear, making the remaining ones look better than reality.
And more anecdotes about bad advisor experiences.
Yeah, readers switching from high-fee advisors to Vanguard and doing better. Stories of feeling taken advantage of. He repeats his dislike for Wells Fargo. Bank of America urges researching better alternatives.
What about tactics wealth managers might use?
Playing on fear, promising safety, downplaying asset allocation, focusing on complex, needless tax stuff to justify fees, shares his own story of being pressured into a high-fee fund with exit penalties.
And the core problem with actively managed mutual funds.
High fees, expense ratios of 1–2% plus, and often underperforming the market. Managers try to beat the market, but human error, trading costs drag them down, plus potential sales charges, loads. Compares passive index funds versus active funds over time, the fee difference compounds massively.
So what's the better way, especially for people scared of stocks going down?
Automatic investing, low-cost, diversified index funds, or target date funds. Simple. Takes emotion out, frees you from chasing hot stocks or guessing market direction. Zen investing for people who have real lives, he calls it.
He touches on fire financial independence, retire early briefly, too.
Yeah. Acknowledges the movement, earn more than you spend, reach the crossover point where investments cover expenses. Notes most people dismiss it, but uses it to highlight thinking long-term about earning spending. Contrasts it with the wealthy who might shift to lower returns like bonds for security once they have enough.
What about cash as an investment? And the crucial idea of asset allocation.
Cash is for emergencies, in savings, not long-term investing, loses to inflation. Then pivots hard to asset allocation. How you divide money between different asset types, stocks, bonds, etc. Says it's the most critical factor most people miss.
Different assets, different risk-return profiles.
Exactly. Stocks,
Yeah.
higher potential return, higher risk volatility. Bonds, lower return, more stability. Criticizes media's oversimplification. Safety versus growth. Stresses real-world pain of bad allocation. Older people all in stocks before a crash.
So how do you figure out your allocation?
Primarily based on age and risk tolerance. Younger eats more stocks, longer time horizon. Older are more bonds, closer to needing the money, needs stability. Shares that anecdote about the rich guy mostly in bonds. Once you've won the game, stop taking unnecessary risk. Mention subtypes, large, small cap, international stocks, government bonds. Key is diversification. Start simple, adjust over time, less risk as you age.
Which brings him back to John Bogle and index funds.
Yes, credits Bogle for low-cost index funds that track the market, like S&P 500. Reiterates most active managers fail to beat the market due to fees costs. Index funds, easy, efficient, low-cost way to match the market. They go down when the market goes down, of course. Bonus, saves fees, goes against Wall Street preference for high-fee funds.
And for even simpler investing, target date funds.
The ultimate set it and forget it. Choose a fund matching your retirement year. It automatically adjusts allocation, more stocks when young, more bonds as you near retirement. Benefits, low cost, tax efficient, no work needed beyond contributing. Minimums are often low, $100 K. Great starting point.
What about your 401k? How to invest there?
If there's an employer match, definitely contribute enough to get the full match free money. Inside the 401k, you'll have limited options. Aggressive, balanced, conservative. For young investors, he generally recommends the aggressive, mostly stock option due to the long time horizon.
And actually buying these funds, he makes it sound easy.
Breaks it down.
Yeah.
Research the fund. VAG, Vanguard, target date 2060. Decide amount. Click buy on brokerage site. Set up automatic contributions. Done. Shares a great testimonial. Reader saved earned $70K in 4 years following his 401k Roth TDF advice. Also warns against a common mistake. Opening a Roth but not investing the money inside it. Just sits as cash, missing all the growth potential, shows 3K becoming 12K example.
So two main paths for investing, basically.
Yep. Simple path. Target date funds. His recommended 85% solution. More control path. Build your own portfolio of index funds. Needs more discipline, rebalancing. Briefly mentions David Swenson's Yale model as a guide for the DIY approach, emphasizes diversification across asset classes, U.S. rental stocks, real estate bonds, etc. Treats fund money for high-risk stuff, angel investing, crypto, separately, only after core portfolio is solid. Shares his own big win on Amazon stock early on, but the lesson was not to pick stocks but invest consistently in diversified funds. Contrasts investors with speculators, like in crypto, who often like diversification. Expresses skepticism about crypto as a primary investment. Ends with week 6 actions. Figure out your style, TDF or index funds, research specific funds.
Wow, incredibly thorough on investing. Now the final big section, living a rich life, moving beyond just the numbers.
Yes, this is about the why. Why do you want more money? Get brutally honest, street-level answers, he says, not vague stuff. Includes testimonials linking financial success to passions, concerts, coaching, enjoying good groceries without stress. Your purpose should guide decisions. Fire E versus enjoying an expensive city. His ideal, yes and yes. Save, invest aggressively, and live richly now.
He revisits rebalancing the portfolio here, too.
Right. Periodically adjusting back to your target asset allocation because different parts grow at different rates. Best way. Direct new money to underweight areas, or temporarily pause contributions to overperforming funds and redirect.
And those tax truths.
Clarifies 3 things. 1, understand marginal tax rates, tax on the next dollar earned. 2, U.S. isn't the highest tax nation. 3, debunks the myth that it's better not to earn more because of taxes. More income almost always means more money after tax.
Week 6 action steps come up again. More focus on implementation.
Yep. Evaluate your conscious spending plan versus the percentages. Reassess subscriptions, renegotiate bills, revisit goals, tackle high fixed costs, cheaper rent, earn more. Set up automatic investments, decide asset allocation, TDF or DIY. Open and fund the accounts, Roth taxable. Set up automatic transfers. Review beneficiaries on everything.
He also mentions tax advantages of long-term investing again.
Lower capital gains tax rates, holding 1 year, versus ordinary income rates, short term. Plus the benefits of retirement accounts, 401k Roth, avoiding taxes in the year of sale, reinforces buy and hold.
When should a young person sell investments?
Only a few reasons. 1, real emergency.
Yeah.
Gives hierarchy. Savings first, then taxable, then maybe Roth contributions. Avoid retirement accounts, CC last resort. 2, truly terrible investment. Rare if diversified. 3, reach a specific goal you invested for. Avoid early retirement withdrawals, penalties, taxes. Avoid CC debt if possible.
What about the 10-year plan for superachievers?
More aggressive path. Build huge emergency funds, 6-12 months. Pay off all debt, maybe even mortgage. Invest super aggressively. Increase income. Reduce expenses more. Consider advanced stuff, real estate business. Give back generously.
Discussing money with a partner gets covered too.
Crucial topic. Key is non-judgmental communication. Asking questions. Provides conversation starters. Mentions wedding, cost reality, 35-day average. Need to save to avoid debt. Leads into prenups, discussing finances before marriage. Shares anecdotes, stresses open talk about money meanings, expectations early on.
Then revisit salary negotiation, buying a car, buying a house. More practical advice.
Salary. Mindset prep is key. Fear is often overblown. Research ranges. Salary.com, etc. Talk to people. Plan your value proposition. Know your dream realistic. Settle for numbers. Negotiate more than just salary, benefits, vacation. Practice. Shares his own prep success story. Energy potential matter too. Car. Calculate total cost of ownership, TCO. Set budget. Stick to it. Don't fall in love before negotiating. Focus on total price, not just monthly payment. Shares dad's negotiation stories. House. Not mandatory. Need 20% down ideally. Afford total monthly costs. Way more than rent. Mortgage, tax, insurance, maintenance. Maybe start with a starter home. Plan to stay 10+ years. Costs. Debunks myths. Prices always rise. Renting. Throwing money away. Key steps. Pre-approval. Good agent. Calculate all costs, closing costs. Aim for price equals 3x gross income. Factor ongoing costs. Ask homeowners about surprises. Get 30-year fixed mortgage. Consider opportunity cost of prepayments versus investing.
And the book wraps up talking about giving back.
Yeah, elevating goals beyond just personal finance. A truly rich life includes sharing, contributing. The final message is empowerment. A rich life is possible with conscious effort, understanding money, using it intentionally as a tool to design the life you want. Freedom, control.
Well, that was definitely an incredibly detailed, comprehensive deep dive into I will teach you to be rich. I think for you listening, it's fair to say you've now got a really solid grasp of Sethi's principles.
Absolutely. You're really equipped now. From the mindset stuff, conscious spending, tackling anxiety, to the nuts and bolts of investing early, optimizing cards and banks, crushing debt, and, crafting that vision for your own rich life.
The key now really is taking action. Just pick one or two small things that stood out, things you can actually do this week. Remember, building that rich life, it's a process. It starts with that first step.
Yeah, definitely take a moment maybe after this to think about what your personal rich life looks like. Be specific. And then what's one concrete thing you can commit to doing, say, this week to start designing it?
Because ultimately, money is just a tool, right? A powerful one, sure, but it's there to help you live the life you actually want. So empower yourself to use it consciously, intentionally.
Thank you for joining us at Wisdom House, where we bring you timeless insights from the greatest books. If you found this deep dive valuable, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom House. Stay curious, stay inspired, and we'll see you in the next video.